Hello, good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo to present. Our top stories in the news tonight: rice and millet record a sharp rise amidst mielie meal shortages in Lusaka. Reshuffles at permanent secretary and police level not impressive, observes social scientist Innocent KOLALA. PEP leader Sean TEMBO back in court for disrespecting President Hakainde Hichilema. International news: IMF calls for help in sub-Saharan Africa to manage a severe financial shortage. In sports news, Zambia confirmed ready to host the combined under-20 and under-18 CAAC.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello once again, the news in detail. Prices of rice and millet at Soweto Market in Lusaka are skyrocketing amidst the shortage and high price of mielie meal in the country. A check by Camnet News found that rice, which was selling at an average of 65 kwacha per 5 kilogram bag for 5.5 kilogram, has now doubled, and millet is selling at 50 kwacha per kilogram. The traders have blamed the increase on high fuel prices and exaggerated order prices due to a shortage of the country's staple, while stating that people are, however, unwilling to buy the said alternatives as business has been slow. More in this report.
This is millet, one of the alternatives that has been suggested to Zambians amidst the shortage of mielie meal and the high pricing of the commodity attributed to smuggling. Alternatives which have been suggested for citizens include millet, sorghum, rice and cassava as a replacement of the country's staple food mielie meal. Camnet News Friday morning visited Soweto Market, which is one of the biggest market facilities in Zambia, to have an appreciation of the general price of the food alternatives, as well as to see whether people are responding to the advice. Traders at the market who sought confidentiality say the response has been poor, mainly owing to the cost of the commodities shooting up due to increased transportation, as well as due to the shortage of the country's staple food.
And then wama using sama ninge kupikira munkoyo, moba, nge wama tenga na wopika kuma porridge vajata tuwa ina sugar. But kamati nkaleo step food yakudya mu Zambia singa kwanisike bantu sibanga kwanisikuti. Tika order saka ya binzi to order 3 pin. And then business ili slow kuti choke 3 pin umusichoka upeze kati wa jubi koro 500 kairu ukagulisa poka mozi hapa ni hand to mouth ukagulisa wadya at the end of the day ubwera mukupeza upeza tulibendrama ili yonse. So business yakosa kulibendrama so mwana bwerera ngabogulisa polo kakopa.
Others have urged the government to ensure stability in the pricing of fuel if the business is to be stable.
Mali aya tigulisa ni 50 kwacha. Bacha mali kuyenda stiumo siyaenda. Yamaenda pangono ndepa ni yamaenda. Futa tungankana saka mayona isaka. Ya siriza isaka 2 weeks siguliwa ya mali. So amali kwamba kutiacha tipitiliza gulisa mali awi. Ora yamaka kamba chunga wachosekwa fake kwa mali singa kwani sike. Amali chikanga ya mali wakumunzi wena wako na jaile sema Zambia singa jaile kujamali. Kapenta imeda ni 200 na 250 na 220. Manja vintu vadula chifukwa chani transport fuel wasabwanje bafakira. So na beve bantu kuno bakaleta badurisa vintu katundu. So tatabwa kapenta ozaigura mu 4 pin, mayo kagura mu 4 pin. Ukagulisa kambe kapenta tugulise mu 100 kwacha sister bwansi balansa tikwereramo tina mafamilies ametisunga so zapezeka tiro kutubalisa buno bwino kulibe so tipempako babweze ko mutengo mafuel special batiganizireko
isi mama ali ngati these days nyoko sakwelo na unga no dura maningi.
They have therefore urged the current administration to come up with citizen-friendly policies to improve the cost of living in the country. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
A 50-year-old businesswoman of Lusaka's Kanono compound in Kanyama constituency has refused chasing her brother-in-law from the family house after he fell ill. In an interview, Rosemary Zulu claims her brother-in-law Moses Zulu left the family house on his own free will. Meanwhile, Moses Zulu has alleged that his sister-in-law chased him from the family house when his elder brother went for a business trip, and he has been sleeping in the compound market for over 2 weeks now. And Mwapono market leadership have cautioned Mrs. Zulu and her husband from abandoning their sick relative, adding that they risk having themselves reported to the police if they continue with this. More in this report.
When one gets sick, they are always comforted with the presence of their relative to take care of them. However, this has not been the case for this man. Chased from his family house by his sister-in-law, Moses Zulu was forced to spend all his night in this small barber shop located in Mofono Market in Kanyama constituency. Despite being ill, Zulu was left to look after himself for days. He can barely talk or walk. His sister-in-law allegedly chased him from their family house on ground that he does not bring any groceries.
But
later, after being questioned by the leadership market and concerned citizen for justice and human rights who came to the rescue of Zulu, Rosemary Zulu refused sending her brother-in-law away from the house. She was also backed by her husband, the elder brother to Moses Zulu. Mike Zulu refused conniving with his wife to chase his younger brother who is currently sick. Upon noticing that his condition was getting worse and he had been abandoned by his family, the market leadership, together with concerned citizen for justice and human rights, decided to seek audience with the family.
So chintu chikuru zivani kuti uyu muntu achita bwanji adwala then muntu akadwala tisi angadwalidwe so muchite understand kuti muntu samvera bwino.
Government irekerera abantu bafera mu market kuli mbali yamene boma ingachite mwambese sai kuli mbali yamene ine pano nakabongwe kato chamene tabwerera pano chamene tingachite bwanji tingachite mwambese sai. Aha. Then kuli mbali yamene imwe babanja mungachite bwanji mungachite mwanimvesesa mwamene chiri uyu ni muntu mungaine mwanimvesesa ana ufulu kapena ma rights yakuti imwe na ine tifunika kumuchingiriza.
For Moses, he's glad he has returned home, though the fear is the treatment he might be subjected to. Concerned Citizen for Justice and Human Rights says it will continue to monitor him.
Moses Zulu, who is unwell, has been sleeping in the market for some time now. We received a complaint from the market leadership and the community leadership concerning his health. When we came yesterday, the situation wasn't okay. Even this morning, we found that he's unable to talk. So what we have done as an organization, number one, we have engaged the relatives although it was hard for us to convince the relative for him for them to accept him back in the family. Further, we appreciate the community for the law which they have prayed.
Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Zambia Compulsory Standards Agency has seized a bale of second-hand underwear valued at 5,000 kwacha. Displaying the seized items in Lusaka Friday, Zambia Compulsory Standards Agency Communications Manager Brian Hatioka says a team of inspectors from the agency Thursday moved into the Central Business District to monitor compliance levels by the traders selling second-hand clothes. Mr. Hatioka says one trader was found wanting by selling second-hand underwear that has been banned in Zambia, adding that the seized items will be burnt. Meanwhile, the affected trader, identified as Catherine Muita, says the seized bale was her only capital and that she has been left with no source of income to take care of her children. More in this report.
The Zambia Compulsory Standard Agency Thursday moved into the Central Business District of Lusaka to monitor compliance levels among traders selling second-hand undergarments to ensure that second-hand underwears do not find themselves on the market. One trader was however found wanting as she was found selling second-hand underwears, some of which were found with stains. The agency seized the items, all valid at 5,000 kwacha. And speaking when it displayed the seized items, ZCSA Communications Manager Brian Hatioka has wondered why traders are still selling second-hand underwears when the law prohibits the importation of such items.
We are still investigating so that she can tell us the real source. Who is the importer? Which warehouse? Which distributor? You know, this cannot just find itself on the market. There should have been an importer, there should have been a warehouse, and all these people must be brought to book. They must be answerable of importing something that is banned in Zambia. So we'll keep on investigating, but like I said, we appeal to the public to act as whistleblowers so that they can blow the whistle. Tell us there is this illegality so that we can go and control that illegality.
Mr. Hatioka also says the seized items will be banned so that they do not find themselves on the market, further calling on traders to stop the habit of importing second-hand underwears.
Like these products we have impounded, we cannot hand them to the owner. We have to dispose them off. And how do we dispose them? We have to burn them, we have to completely destroy. Because if we just throw them, someone will still get and use. At the end of the day, they will still have that risk of having other illnesses like skin diseases. So we don't need these products to be accessed. We issued...
Meanwhile, the affected trader, identified as Catherine Muita, says the seized bale was her only source of income and says she has now been left with no other means of taking care of her children.
5 pini basende nomba mulengira mu kwati 5 pini pakutinka isange nilero pano mu bantu bakwalesa mwana tukwate kya kuchita fimbi kuti waleka basi mayo bashenje bati kuti mwaoda na ngwimbalala kuti nashitisha mwamuna lesa akusesha waleshisha tomato mwamva my sister in waleshisha imbalala wale odembalala wale ko kushisha imbalala wala muri tomato tula chinjana stage so sirafina nenambiri okushisha ala mapanti ishtanga yali kwana lesangali seshangana lisambo koda kofimbi fichilile parifili.
With the Sustainable Development Goal number 3 focusing on good health and well-being, this will not be achieved if people continue to buy second-hand underwears, which may be unhealthy to consumers. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Opposition Patriotic Front Media Director Antonio Mwanza says the former ruling party is now more likely to win the 2026 general elections, charging that Zambians are unhappy with the performance of the current administration, which promised economic transformation but has failed to make any significant progress thus far. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Mwanza is of the view that Zambians should brace for harder times due to the International Monetary Fund IMF conditionalities, which he says are likely to continue causing an increase in the cost of living. The PF Media Director is confident that once the former ruling party is done with the rebranding process, it will be more attractive than the UPND in 2026. More in this report.
While past trends have proved that no political party that has lost elections in Zambia has reclaimed the presidential seat, the opposition Patriotic Front PF insists that it is not wasting money on its massive rebranding process, as it is confident that it will walk the corridors of power come 2026. The opposition party, through its media director Antonio Mwanza, who was speaking to Camnet News, states that what gives the party confidence is that it is slowly proving itself as the most attractive alternative government against the performance of the United Party for National Development UPND administration, which promised to transform the country's economy.
The Zambian people rejected the PF on very particular issues, and we are aware of those. We've done a post-mortem. We know what Zambians didn't want about Patriotic Front. To deal with the issues that the Zambian people didn't like about Patriotic Front, one of them was the issues of cadarism. We know that those issues where we went wrong, we will not repeat them. That's the basis under which the Zambian people will give us the vote.
He has blamed the current situation on the International Monetary Fund IMF conditions, charging that there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
Minister of Finance, is saying that the IMF has given them 100%. What he means is that the IMF, the UPND as a government, have complied with the conditionalities the IMF gave them. The first conditionalities was for them to remove fuel subsidies, which they have done, and they have made the cost of fuel to go high. The second one, which we are going into as phase 2 for the IMF to release the 188 million, will include one, the privatization of state assets such as ZESCO. Secondly, it will include the removal of hundreds of thousands of Zambians from farmer input support program. It will also include the reduction of public expenditure on education, on health.
The UPND is, however, on record stating that it has been forced to come up with rigorous economic reforms to repair the country's economy, which they say was destroyed by the previous administration. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
President Hakainde Hichilema says his administration will not allow the country to return to bloodshed that was experienced in the past. President Hichilema says there is need to restore professionalism and the respect for one another in all aspects of life. The president, who was speaking when he swore in public servants into various positions at State House Friday, has tasked those who have been appointed to ensure that they serve the people of Zambia wholeheartedly. Among those who have been sworn in is the new Inspector General of Police, Grafel Musamba, and Alita Mbawe as Deputy Inspector General of Police.
We get the drugs into the hospitals. We will have a third permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health to try and find a solution to this issue, so that each one of you be dedicated to doing your role, but working with the other two and working within the vision of this government. We will not return this country to violence. Come rain, come sunshine, no one will be allowed to return this country to bloodshed in the bus stops, in the streets, in the markets. No one. There's no name there. There's no height there. That's what I said to Mr. Msamba. Please, you may take your seat. There's no Hichilema there. There's no namesake of mine, Sichidima. Let's restore professionalism. Let's restore respect for one another. Just one another. People abuse innocent citizens, they get away with it. No. From that abuse, it moves to carrying guns. Can you also clean out illegal guns?
A social scientist, Innocent KOLALA, says President Hakainde Hichilema has missed it by firing permanent secretaries and other technocrats, while no single minister has been fired since the coming in of the current administration, as these are responsible for implementing government policies. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. KOLALA says Zambians have high expectations of the United Party for National Development, UPND, and that the president can therefore not afford to keep incompetent people or those working against the government of the day in office. He states that Zambia's economy is currently in a bad state and that technocrats who are supposed to ensure that policies formulated by cabinet ministers have gone to sleep. Mr. KOLALA was reacting to the firing of Inspector General of Police Lemi Kajoba, who has been replaced by Grafel Musamba, among other reshuffles announced Friday in a press statement by State House. Other reshuffles are the pending redeployment of Deputy Inspector General of Police Administration, Ms. Doris Nayame, who has been replaced by Ms. Alita Mbawe, who is a former commissioner at the Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC.
Other people might say, why has the president failed to fire the cabinet ministers? But it's not the cabinet ministers who implement the policies. The cabinet ministers, together with the Republican president and other political players, they come up with the policies, which now they give it to the technocrats, who are the permanent secretaries, who are the directors, who are, of course, in this case, the heads of institutions like the police and these other institutions. Henceforth, the president is very right. Let him relieve the technocrats who are supposed to help him implement the policies of this new Tony government. So it should be a lesson to almost all the technocrats who have remained in the offices that they should be toiling the government's policies. If you are working against what the government is putting in place, which has appointed you, it becomes very, very difficult, even becoming antagonistic with the cabinet ministers. Some permanent secretaries were not getting orders from the cabinet ministers. They were thinking they were also cabinet ministers because they were appointed by the same appointing authority. These are some of the issues which I think when you are appointed, you need to know where you are supposed to end and where you are supposed to come from. These are some of the issues which you always talk about.
Former High Commissioner to South Africa, Leslie Mbula, has dragged Patriots for Economic Progress leader Sean TEMBO to the Constitutional Court for allegedly using derogatory remarks against the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema on social media. According to an affidavit filed before court, Mr. Mbula submits that the opposition leader has on various occasions shared disparaging posts about the head of state through his Facebook page. Mr. Mbula has cited the Attorney General and Mr. TEMBO as respondent respectively. The applicant wants the Constitutional Court to interpret whether one can insult and issue dehumanizing remarks against the head of state due to the replaced criminal sanctions towards crude and defamatory remarks against a sitting president. Mr. Mbula is also seeking for the court's interpretation on whether the freedom of expression in Zambia has unfettered limits. The Lusaka Magistrate Court has set the 7th of May 2023 as date for judgment in a case in which a 27-year-old man of Lusaka is accused of sodomizing a 10-year-old boy. This is in a case in which Peter Jerry is alleged to have enticed the victim to his house under the pretext of buying him some snacks and ended up abusing him. More in this report.
The subordinate court in Lusaka is expected to deliver its judgment next month in a criminal case where a 27-year-old man is accused of sodomizing an 11-year-old boy with autism. The setting of the judgment date by the court comes after the accused in this matter, Peter Jerry, a businessman, closed his defense. Earlier this month, Jerry was found with a case to answer after the prosecution team closed its case. During his defense before court, Jerry had refused knowing the victim, however confirmed to the court that he stayed in the same neighborhood with the victim. According to the court's records, the abuse is alleged to have occurred between the 3rd and 4th of March 2022. Peter Jerry, the accused, is alleged to have enticed the 11-year-old victim to his house under the pretext of buying him snacks. The state have charged him with 1 count of unnatural offences contrary to Section 155C of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia. Previously, the mother to the victim gave chilling testimony of how her 11-year-old autistic son was allegedly sodomized by the accused. The unnamed mother, whose identity cannot be disclosed for purposes of the victim's safety, had told the Lusaka Magistrate Court how she was shocked, upset and confused that the accused, who had been a neighbor for the past 5 years, would resort into doing such a ruthless act. The matter comes up on the 7th of May 2023 for judgment. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is Camnet Television Main News. Join us for more news after this break.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti for your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You've heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. The Zambia Police Service has reported that a total of 7,609 road traffic accidents have been recorded in the first quarter of 2023 countrywide. Police Assistant Public Relations Officer Godfrey Chilabi says Lusaka Province had the highest number of accidents, with 4,186 representing 54.8% of the total accidents. Mr. Chilabi says out of these accidents, 360 were fatal, resulting in the deaths of 390 people. He says 744 were serious injury accidents, in which 1,113 people were seriously injured, while 1,458 were slight injury accidents.
The Zambia Police Service recorded a total of 7,639 road traffic accidents countrywide during the first quarter of 2023. This covers the period from January 1 to March 31, 2023. Lusaka Province had the highest number of accidents, with 4,186, representing 54.8% of the total accidents. Out of these accidents, 360 were fatal, resulting in the deaths of 390 people. Additionally, 744 were serious injury accidents, in which 1,119 people were seriously injured, and 1,458 were slight injury accidents, resulting in minor injuries to 2,043 people. 11,416,058 kwacha was collected as admission of guilt fines.
Tourism Minister Rodney Sikumba says the Communication Strategy 2023 to 2026 document and website his ministry launched will set a tone for the effective and efficient engagement of the ministry with its internal and external stakeholders and clients. Speaking when he unveiled the two information dissemination tools in Lusaka last night, the minister said communication is critical in the management of operations in both the private and public sector. He said in order to achieve the objectives and core mandate of the ministry, communication to a wider spectrum of all stakeholders internally and externally will make or break the attainment of these goals. Mr. Sikumba says the ministry exceptionally dissected its stakeholders' mapping matrix to identify appropriate strategies to engage them in a segmented manner, but more importantly, to work together as a team. The Livingstone lawmaker underlined that Zambia's visibility cannot be overemphasized as a measure to boost the tourism in the country, and hence the importance of the development of a communication strategy and website.
This evening is purely based on us bragging about how easy to be in you connecting with the Minister of Tourism. And why it's very important that we should brag about it as the Minister of Tourism is because we are going into a digital world, or rather we are already in a digital world. Anyone today, if you're going to ask them about where Zambia is, or rather to Google Zambia's tourism, it will be difficult. Well, before that, it used to be very difficult to actually understand what Zambia's tourism was all about. But this time around, we're giving you an opportunity to actually see exactly what is obtaining in Zambia. And also, to you, the private sector, you, our clients, you've always been asking us what is the benefit of actually having a tourism enterprise license? What is the benefit of actually getting a manager's license, casino license? All these particular licenses that you feel you are inundated over. However, this is one such tool which will now get you to be known outside there. Whenever we're talking about Zambia Kuchalo, this is an opportunity.
We had signed collaborative management agreements in Kafue National Park. We have signed basically with Africa Parks Network that we are collaborating with, and within Kafue there we have International Crane Foundation which are working in the Kafue flats as well, and we'll be able to ensure that we also sign in terms of the GMAs that are around Kafue with TNC which is the Nature Conservancy, and many other partners that we've signed. In Sioma, we are signing with Peace Parks as well. We'll be able to announce that.
Our expectations from the communication strategy are as follows. From this undertaking, it will enhance the implementation, identify action points, and service delivery, not just at the Ministry HQ, but also downstream coordination among all related statutory bodies such as ZTA, NMB, NHCC, DNPW, ZITHS, and the private sector. Honorable Minister, the TCZ was established in 1997, and out of the provisions of the current tourism policy and the conviction of the stakeholders' need for a representative intermediary organization required to provide interface between government and the private sector.
The Drug Enforcement Commission has arrested 45 suspects for various offences in Musenga, Macho location and Chiwa compounds in Kasama district of Northern Province. Northern Province Acting DEC Commander Matthias Kamanga says some of the suspects have been arrested for trafficking in various quantities of drugs, while one has been picked for operating an illegal pharmacy containing medicines that are supposed to be in hospitals. Mr. Kamanga says the Commission is working to establish why medicines that are supposed to be in hospitals have ended up at a pharmacy. He has since commended community members for being helpful in the operation of the Commission and for acting as whistleblowers.
Conducted operations in Musenga, in Mako area, in location and in Chiva, where we have picked up 45 suspects for various offences. Some have been picked up for trafficking in various quantities of drugs. We have one that has been picked up for trading an illegal pharmacy where they are selling these drugs that are coming from a government hospital, and investigations are underway for us to establish where these medicines emanated from for them to be found in this particular pharmacy. As a commission, we'd like to call upon the people of Kasama who have been very helpful in the work that we've been doing, who have actually given us this information about these areas where this drug trafficking has been taking place, to continue giving us this information so that we may be able to curb this criminal activity that has been on the increase.
Ministry of Agriculture in Northwestern Province has received 18 motorbikes for camp extension officers to alleviate transport challenges. Acting Provincial Agricultural Coordinator Dixon Musema confirmed the receipt of the motorbikes to National Agricultural Information Services NAIS in Solwezi today. Mr. Msema said the agriculture extension in the province is partially hampered by transport challenges to reach out and deliver extension messages to the farmers. He, however, said the gesture will go a long way in enhancing and promoting the production and productivity of the farmers. Mr. Msema also appealed to the Ministry to consider extending the gesture to the District Agricultural Coordinator's Office, which he says has no transport. Nais has more.
The Northwestern Province, the Ministry of Agriculture, wish to acknowledge the receipt of 18 motorbikes Honda Excel from Lusaka, procured centrally by the Ministry of Agriculture in Lusaka. I wish to convey our sincere gratitude to the Government Secretary and his team for considering procuring these motorbikes for our camp officers in the districts. This will go a long way in alleviating the transport challenges which you experienced over time now. As you may be aware, we've not been privileged with such a gesture to receive transport in terms of motorbikes and vehicles. Our agricultural extension is being hampered partially because our district staff and the camp staff don't have adequate transport to be able to reach out to our farmers.
This is Camnet Television and not just another channel. Join us for international and sports news after the break.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Welcome back. And now in international news, growth in sub-Saharan Africa is expected to slow to 3.6% in 2023 as a big funding squeeze tied to the drying up of aid and access to private finance hits the region, announced the IMF April 13, 2023 in a press briefing. If no measures are taken, this shortage of funding may force countries to reduce fiscal resources for critical development like health, education, infrastructure, holding the region back from developing its true potential. Sub-Saharan African countries lag significantly in revenue collection, with a median tax ratio of only 13% of GDP in 2022, compared with 18% in other emerging economies and developing countries and 27% in advanced economies. Here's a roundup of international news for more.
The IMF says growth in sub-Saharan Africa is expected to slow to 3.6% in 2023 as a big funding squeeze tied to drying up of aid and access to private finance hits the region. If no measures are taken, this shortage of funding may force countries to reduce fiscal resources for critical development.
So there are a number of reforms that need to be pursued. I think first and foremost, of course, is policies to strengthen the resilience of economies. So in many countries, for example, there's a big challenge on mobilizing more domestic revenues. That needs to be addressed wherever that's the main challenge. Second, I think it's also important to consider policies to insulate domestic economies from external environment. So allowing exchange rates to adjust, interest rates to be recalibrated to reflect better, to reduce inflation, are all going to be very important part of the policy response to this adverse external environment.
Sub-Saharan African countries lag significantly in revenue collections with a median tax ratio of only 13% of GDP in 2022 compared to 18% in other emerging economies and developing countries.
The ruling military authorities in Burkina Faso have declared a general mobilization to fight terrorism. A statement from the presidency was read on the national broadcaster Thursday. Upon grabbing power, the country's transitional president set a goal of recapturing 40% of Burkina's territory, now controlled by jihadists. The adoption of this decree allows the establishment of the general mobilization in our country in order to have the necessary means to defend the integrity of the territory and protect the entire population and the property from terrorism. Details of the plan were not disclosed. A security source suggested it would include a state of emergency for affected territories. NGOs believe the jihadi violence has killed over 10,000 people these past 7 years.
South Africa has managed to attract new investment commitments from investors worth about $84 billion over the next 5 years. President Cyril Ramaphosa met with investors as part of the 5th South Africa Investment Conference. One of the investors, the South African Breweries Investment Pledge, is expected to create 40,000 jobs in the country.
We're committing to invest 5.8 billion rand. We'll invest that full amount by the end of this year. So it's primarily for the expansion of our brewery in Gqeberha at Ibai. It's a project that's actually was started last year and will be completed this year. And this is off the back of last year's investment commitment to invest 4.5.
While President Ramaphosa has put forward his multi-billion US dollar investment target, South Africans here on the streets say he needs to focus on eradicating electricity blackouts in order to boost investor confidence.
I feel like President Ramaphosa should be focusing on sorting out the electricity problem, so the whole load shedding thing, yes ma'am, because like in terms of like business-wise, I feel like we're losing more than we're profiting because of the extra provisions we have to make for electricity.
I think if people are willing to invest, that's great. I think that's the first thing. I think with also load shedding.
Another South African on the street says investors should trust in President Ramaphosa's energy investment plan and not use the energy crisis as an excuse not to invest.
They can invest, okay, so long will be right, and then they can just do business because everything is not about electricity. We do have generators now, of which I connect 7 up businesses.
The South Africa Investment Conference was first introduced by President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2018 to help attract more investors to the country. Wandi Swandeng in Johannesburg, South Africa, Africa News.
It's now time for sports news. Yeah, sports news tonight. Ministry of Youth, Sports and Arts Permanent Secretary Kangwa Chileshe says the Confederation of the African Athletics and has approved Levi Mwanawasa Stadium as the competition venue of the second editions of the combined Under-20 and Under-18 Confederation of African Athletic Championships this month. Addressing journalists in Lusaka Friday, Mr. Chileshe says the General Conference and the election of Congress will however be held in Lusaka. The Permanent Secretary says the ministry is committed to hosting the tournament, which has attracted 53 countries with over 1,000 athletes and delegates expected in the country. Meanwhile, Kenya Athletics Communications and Sustainability Officer Maxwell Nyama says his team is in the country to install air quality sensors at the venue to ensure that the athletes compete in a conducive environment. More in this report.
All is set for Zambia to host the second edition of the combined Under-20 and Under-18 Confederation of African Athlete Championship after the Confederation of the African Athletes approved Levi Mwanawasa Stadium as the competition venue. The tournament will take place from the 28th of April to the 3rd of May 2023 and has attracted the participation of 53 countries with over 1,000 athletes and delegates expected to attend. Ministry of Youth, Sports and Art Permanent Secretary Chileshe Kangwa is happy that Zambia has qualified to host the tournament.
I'm delighted to inform you that the Confederation of African Athletics
has since approved Levi Mwanawasa Stadium as the competition venue for hosting the games. However, the General Conference and the Elective Congress will still be hosted here in Lusaka at the Mulungushi International Conference Center, to be specific.
The Permanent Secretary has also encouraged the athletes participating in the tournament to take advantage of the opportunity to gain themselves resources that will transform their lives.
I want you to understand that these games are so crucial because they're going to mold and fashion the careers of young athletes. That these games are so crucial that they're going to give young athletes an opportunity to earn something and be able to afford meal, to be able to afford school, to be able to afford one or two things. Over 1,000 athletes, over 1,000 delegates are coming converging here.
In Kenya, Athletes Communications and Sustainable Officer Maxwell Nyama and his team are already in Zambia and have installed the air quality sensors which are meant to monitor the quality of air at the stadium to ensure that athletes compete in favorable environment.
We do this particular installation of air quality sensor because it's important for us to know the air quality or the pollution level so that we can take necessary measures. And why it's important to install air quality sensors is that we are required, I mean the Athletics Federation, Athletics Kenya, Zambia Athletics, and the other 214 member federations of world athletics are required to ensure that we stage our events in clean stadiums, in clean venues for the safety of the athletes.
Meanwhile, Zambia Amateur Athletes Association President Elias Mpondela says Zambian athletes are ready to win medals at the tournament.
The ministry has told us they want medals, and we are working around the clock to sort of generate medals and make Zambia proud. So we are going to have first two all-comers in the process before the games. There will be all-comers, I think, sometime next week after the pitch is already painted.
Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
To end Camnet Television News, the headlines once again. Rice and millet record a sharp rise amidst meal shortages in Lusaka. Reshuffles at permanent secretary and police level not impressive, observes social scientist Innocent KOLALA. PEP leader TEMBO back in court for disrespecting President Hakainde Hichilema. In international news, IMF calls for help in sub-Saharan Africa to manage a severe financial shortage. In sports news, Zambia confirmed ready to host the combined under-20 and under-18 CAAC. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from James 4, verse 14 to 15. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. Thank you again for watching Camnet News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.